Okay, this is some feedback from the mock exam 2019 for my Year 12s, but this is a quick video on some of the social psychology. So the question would be something like distinguish between conformity and obedience, and I'll talk you through distinguish between two types of conformity. Okay, so how do we tackle that distinguish between question? Let's have a look at this. Right, let's go with this, distinguish between conformity and obedience. Okay, how do we tackle that? First of all, you should define clearly the first concept, define the second, and then state a very clear difference between those two, but using new terms, new terminology is the best way, and new material. And obviously you need to make sure you cover both sides of it. So sometimes we get a student who just says, you know, obedience is different in this way, but you haven't talked about the difference with conformity. So for example, conformity, yielding to group pressure, nice and concise. Obedience, complying with the demands of a perceived authority. So the difference is that in obedience, there's an explicit order given. Something's explicitly stated, whereas in conformity, it's just implied, it's implicit. There's an implicit expectation to be like the group. Or, second one. Right, we could say the difference is that in obedience, orders come from someone higher in authority, so higher in the hierarchy, whereas in conformity, there's no hierarchy because we're feeling pressure from our peer group, so everyone is on the same level in the hierarchy. Okay, so what if we get a slightly different question? Something like this, distinguish between two types of conformity. So we're going to use that same format, define for first one. So define compliance, for example. Someone publicly agrees but privately disagrees to gain approval. Internalization, someone publicly agrees and also privately agrees as well as a result of accepting the group's beliefs. And identification, if you were going to do a different one, someone publicly agrees and also privately agrees, but only to gain the group acceptance. The reason I put all three in there is because you might as well have all the three definitions. Okay, but this question would only require you to cover two of these, whichever two you prefer. The difference is, for example, with internalization, it usually results in a long-term change of behavior and beliefs, whereas compliance, they're actually just going along with it just in the short term, just to get the group's acceptance. For example, to get the group's approval. Or you could say the difference is that internalization will often occur as a result of informational social influence, okay, because you don't know what to do, so you're looking around for others, for example, in a restaurant or whatever, and you see everyone else doing something, so you assume they're right, okay? So it's the result of informational social influence, whereas compliance is the result of normative social influence. You know what the right thing to do is, but you don't really care, you just want to gain approval, okay?